fleeing conflict. And that is just some of the early reaction to that decision. But just to recap, High Court judges in London have ruled the British government's policy of deporting asylum seekers to Rwanda is lawful. Much more on that news throughout the day. You've been watching BBC News.
You're live with Lucy Hockings on BBC World News. A historic deal aimed at saving the natural world. The biggest UN biodiversity conference in a decade agrees to protect a third of nature around the world, despite some strong objections. There are celebrations through the night in Buenos Aires as Lionel Messi leads Argentina to World Cup glory, beating France in one of the greatest finals ever. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is re-elected as the leader of the ruling ANC party despite corruption allegations. And should he stay or should he go? Elon Musk asked his followers to vote on whether he should step down as head of Twitter. The next half hour will be live in Doha, Johannesburg and Cambridge. It is being billed as the Paris moment for the natural world. After marathon talks that extended late into the night, an agreement has been reached, the first of its kind, aimed at protecting the planet's ecosystems that are under threat from colossal environmental damage. Now, this agreement aims to place 30% of the planet under protection by the end of the decade. There were some African countries, they did object to the text, but this agreement in Montreal has been made at the Biodiversity Summit. It's known as COP15 and it has been pushed through. So it's a massive development. Let's take you live to Cambridge Institute for Sustainability and join the Director of Policy there, Elliot Whittington. Elliot, very good to see you. Is that a fair comparison? Is this like the Paris Climate Agreement, but for the natural world? Is it that big a deal? We'll keep across that story. 4 more minutes to go. You're live with Lucy Hockings. Also to come, the UN calls on countries around the Andaman Sea to come to the aid of a boat with Rohingya refugees. It's been drifting without power for weeks. You're live with Lucy Hockings. Let's talk more about this massive deal that has just been signed in Montreal in Canada to protect nature and biodiversity. Sophie Esau from one of our podcasts, which is called The Climate Question, is with me now, just making sure I got that right for people who want to go on to BBC Sounds and listen to it. I thought it was interesting talking to Elliot earlier about some of the commitments, the headline things that have been made, but what we didn't outline, Sophie, is just what kind of crisis we're looking at in terms of nature and biodiversity. Can you outline the scale of the challenge ahead? Well, we have been keeping a close eye on this Twitter poll and we have a result. Elon Musk asked the Twitter population and they have spoken. 17 million people casting their votes. 57.5% say they do want him to resign as CEO of Twitter. So the results just in, 57.5. He posted this poll shortly after he was at that World Cup final, actually, standing next to Jared Kushner, the son-in-law and ex-advisor to former US President Donald Trump. He has done Twitter polls before and he has obeyed them. He always said that he would follow through on this. So the implication of this is that this vote, we think, will ultimately lead to the ending of his time as chief executive of Twitter. He has said he will obey the poll. The Twitterati have spoken. 57.5% of people saying that Elon Musk should go. And to remind you, there's been so much controversy around the changes at Twitter since Elon Musk bought the social media site. He did various things. He fired quite a few members of his staff. He tried to roll out a paid-for verification feature, then put it on pause. He has suspended members of the media from their accounts and then reinstated them as well. So there's been a lot of controversy there. But the results now showing that 57.5% of his followers think that he should stand down. See you again in a few minutes' time for the headlines. You're live with Lucy Hockings on BBC World News. Lionel Messi leads his team to World Cup glory. Argentina beat France in one of the greatest finals ever. There were celebrations through the night in Buenos Aires for the famous trophy, the first one for Argentina since 1986. A historic deal aimed at saving the natural world. The biggest UN biodiversity conference in a decade does agree to protect a third of nature around the world. Forensic experts in Ukraine tell the BBC the bodies of people killed by Russia have in many cases been so badly burned that it's hard to extract DNA to identify them. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is re-elected as the leader of the ruling ANC party, despite corruption allegations. In the next hour on the programme, we will be live in Buenos Aires, Kyiv, Doha and Glasgow. The Argentina football team are in the air and they are on their way home to a hero's welcome after winning the World Cup in Qatar. It was a tournament that took place over 29 days, 64 matches and 172 goals. Lionel Messi leading his team to victory in a breathless final against France, and he has elevated himself to the pantheon of all-time footballing greats. To be fair, he was already there, but now he is even more legendary. You're live with Lucy Hockings. Still to come, the committee investigating the January the 6th attack on the US Capitol is preparing to release its final report. And we'll take you live to Kyiv with the story of the teams working to identify remains found in shallow graves. You're live with Lucy Hockings. 9 Iranian-made drones have been shot down over Kyiv in the early hours of Monday. This is the latest attack on the city by Russia. The military says over 20 drones were recorded in the capital's airspace and says critical infrastructure has been hit. Power cuts are being reported and 10 other Ukrainian regions are also saying the same after the Russian attack. Our correspondent in Kyiv, Hugo Bachega, has more about these drone attacks. Let's update you on this online poll by Elon Musk. It came to a close about an hour ago, and it was on whether or not he should quit as Twitter CEO. And it did show the majority of those who took part voted in favour of the move. The final numbers, a total of 57.5% voted yes in favour of his resignation. The billionaire entrepreneur launching the poll, promising he would abide by the results. And nearly 18 million Twitter users took part. He has been in charge of Twitter for a turbulent few weeks, so we all wait to see now what will happen next, what his decision will be. See you again in a few minutes' time. We'll be live in Doha. You're live with Lucy Hockings on BBC World News. Lionel Messi leads his team to World Cup glory. Argentina beating France in one of the greatest finals ever. There were celebrations through the night in Buenos Aires for the famous trophy, the first one for Argentina since 1986. A historic deal aimed at saving the natural world. The biggest UN biodiversity conference in a decade agrees to protect a third of nature around the world. As the Netherlands prepares to apologise for its role in slavery, some say it's not doing enough to atone for its colonial past. The majority of those who took part in a poll by Elon Musk on whether he should quit as Twitter CEO have voted in favour of him leaving. The Argentina football team are in the air and on their way home to a hero's welcome after winning the World Cup in Qatar. Lionel Messi has led his team to victory. It was a breathless final against France, and he's elevated himself to the pantheon of all-time footballing greats. Argentina winning the tournament in nail-biting penalty shootout. France had surged late in the game thanks to a hat-trick from their star Kylian Mbappe, but in the end, it wasn't enough. Our sports correspondent Ollie Foster is in Doha and says it was a fitting end to a World Cup which had plenty of twists and turns. Do stay with us here on BBC World News, still to come. The majority of those who took part in a poll by Elon Musk on whether he should quit as Twitter CEO have voted in favour of him leaving. I'll be speaking to one of our tech reporters. You're live with Lucy Hockings. An online poll by Elon Musk on whether he should quit as Twitter CEO shows the majority of those who took part voted in favour of the move. Now, the margin was 15%, so it was pretty substantial. The billionaire entrepreneur launched the poll last night, promising to abide by its results. So let's take you live to Glasgow. We can speak to our tech reporter, Alistair Keane, who is there. He's promised to abide by the results, but has he spoken or said anything since the poll closed, Alistair? Alistair, great to see you. Thanks for joining us from Glasgow as the Twitter saga rolls on. So I showed you a short time ago Alexander Lukashenko, the leader of Belarus, waiting on the tarmac for President Putin. Well, he has now come out of the plane. He is there for talks in Minsk today, amid some speculation from Ukraine and others that he might try to again attack Kyiv from Belarus, because we heard from the Defense Ministry in Moscow saying that Russian troops who are right now in Belarus are doing joint drills, so that's happening on the one hand, and then also Belarus has said it has successfully carried out checks into the combat readiness of its troops. But Dmitry Peskov said, Mr. Putin's spokesperson, he said that these were stupid and groundless claims and that speculation was not accurate. It's good to have you with us today. I'll see you again tomorrow. Yelda's here next.
Hello there. We've got some extreme cold across Western Canada at the moment.